Alrighty, well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. And just for the sake of time, we're gonna start our webinar session now, and then we'll have a few minutes or a couple of minutes on introductions so we can still wait for more attendees to join. So we're very happy to have you all this evening here. So on behalf of the ACP Florida chapter with our governor present over here, Dr. Sotil, on behalf of AMWA as well with our president, Dr. Hingle and Dr. Hoque, with NHMA Florida chapter on behalf of Dr. Sophie as well, and ACHM San Luis chapter and Dr. Hoque. We're very happy to welcome you all to tonight's webinar. And I'm Luis Aicilla. I'm the chair of Membership and Communications Committee in the ACP Florida chapter and chair-elect for NHMA Florida chapter. I want to take just a very brief moment to introduce your moderators for this evening. Dr. Daniela Carralero Somoza, she's a PGY2 for the Internal Medicine Residency at Lakeland Regional Health, and Marian Solano, International Medical Graduate and upcoming PGY1 in the Internal Medicine Residency at Mount Sinai, Chicago. Thank you very much to you all for joining us tonight, and Daniela and Marianne will take it from here. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We have an amazing group of panelists. And to start with the introductions, first, we have Dr. Susan Hingle. She is the president of the American Medical Women's Association, associate dean for the Center for Human and Organizational Potential, and chair of the Department of Medical Humanities in Southern Illinois University School of Medicine. Dr. Farzana Hoque, who is the chair of the Medical Women's Association IMG Initiative, chair of the Society of Hospital Medicine San Luis chapter, associate professor of medicine in San Luis University School of Medicine. We also have our governor in the ACP, Dr. Elisa Sotil. She is the ACP Florida governor and associate program director of the University of Florida, Jacksonville. We also have another Elisa, Dr. Elisa Choi, who is part of the ACP Board of Regents, ACP Delegate, and American Medical Association House of Delegates, past chair of the ACP Boards of Governors, Internal Medicine Physician, HIV Medicine, and Infectious Disease. And last but not least, we have our dear Dr. Veronica Sugby, which is Director of Pediatric Anesthesia in the University of Miami. And she's also the chair of our NHMA Florida Chapter Communications Committee. Welcome, our panelists, and we're going to start.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you, everybody, for being here. It's such a pleasure to have like a whole set of powerful women in medicine here with us tonight. So just opening questions to start our webinar. First question would be, can each of you share a bit about your personal journey into medicine? What inspired you to pursue this career path specifically? And why is it important to have conversations about the experiences of women in medicine today?
Well, maybe I'll start since nobody else is. My journey to medicine was not, I'm not a person who knew since I was 6 years old that I was going to be a doctor, even though I grew up with a father who was a doctor. When I went to college, I was going to be a social worker. I always knew I wanted to do something in the helping professions. I did a sort of like an internship in social work and found that emotionally, it was too challenging for me. I wasn't able to really kind of keep work at work, and I knew I wouldn't be healthy. At the same time, I was working in a zoology professor's lab, and my maiden name is Thompson, and we were talking about how I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life at that point. And he said, Thompson, you're smart enough to be a doctor. Why don't you be a doctor? And he was the first person in my whole life that had actually ever said that to me. And so I never had envisioned it because nobody had helped me to envision it. And so I credit, his name was Dr. DeVilly. I credit him for my career into medicine because he believed in me. And I think that's one of the reasons why we need to talk about the experiences of women in medicine today, because even though the number of women matriculating into medical school is equivalent to that of men, the system is designed for the success of men. The system is not designed for the success of women. And as more and more women get into the profession, we need to really talk about this so we can figure out how to change the systems that will really promote women staying in the profession, because we have so much to offer.
Thank you, Dr. Hingle.
I can go next. As I said, I'm Veronica. I'm originally from Venezuela. Both of my parents are surgeons. My dad was a surgical oncologist and my mom was a plastic. So I've been in the OR since I'm 7. So opposite to Susan, I knew always all my life that I wanted to be a surgeon. So my pathway changed once I came here, but I actually came to United States to be a robotic surgeon. And I was been working all my life for that. Once I was here after my 2 years of surgery, I did a fellowship in patient safety and quality, and that made me change to anesthesia. So I ended up in the anesthesia pathway, and then I did PD regional, and I did pediatric anesthesia, and then I did pediatric regional anesthesia. And just for a correction, I'm the director of pediatric regional anesthesia at the University of Miami. And I think I have a twin sister, and my twin sister had the same experience that I had, but she hates medicine. For me, I was with my parents all the time in the OR, and I was basically raised by the PACU nurses. So I always felt very at ease in the OR. So I always knew that I wanted to be a physician, and always knew that I wanted to be a surgeon. Now my pathway has changed. I don't regret it. I love anesthesia more than I was enjoying myself at surgery. But it's been an amazing pathway for me.
Well, I'm happy to go next. I am exceedingly impressed by the stories from Dr. Zogby and Dr. Hingle. Mine was a bit more circuitous. I always liked the sciences. I was that, preschooler or kindergartner who asked, why was this happening? Why did I bleed when I had a cut? Why are my hands turning colors when it gets cold? So it was always sort of a fascination for me. But when I made my way through high school and college, I actually was literally a step away from deciding to pursue graduate studies as an English major and to become an English professor. But I paused on that because all the while I was taking English courses and thinking about a career in the humanities and particularly in English, what I felt like I would start to miss the higher up in academia I got was to be removed from that direct kind of interaction, the human interaction on a day-to-day basis, which had fascinated me, in high school. And I would have a couple summers where I did some volunteering at the hospital, and I really loved those interactions, but I didn't really think seriously about medicine, although I was fascinated by the sciences and kept taking courses in the sciences. But I started to think more about, well, do I see myself being satisfied doing an ivory tower academic kind of a life? And so I had to do a lot of soul searching and really waited till the last minute to decide that, oh yes, okay, if I'm really going to do something that is a blend of what I loved about English, hearing people's stories, empathizing with someone else and understanding who they are, but yet incorporate the science part, then I literally waited till the last minute to make that decision and finish up my prerequisites and go into a path that would lead me to medical school. But what I have really loved about medicine is it isn't an exact basic science. It is, in fact, an applied science. And there's so much humanism and humanity and the arts and all of that incorporated into what we do. So we may have long forgotten the Krebs cycle, but we might remember a lesson learned from a powerful novel that we read and being able to empathize with a person when we really immerse ourselves in other people's stories. Is for those who do clinical care, and I myself am in clinical care, that's one of the most powerful things that I have found, which has sustained me in my journey and career in medicine.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. I think that's a beautiful message, for sure. Really well put.
right.
Do we have time? We'll all go?
Oh, yeah, for sure, doctor. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So, as I wasn't someone who knew what I was doing so much as I was told what I was doing. I was the youngest of 4 children, and my father passed when I was 10 from colon cancer, and I had an older sister with schizophrenia that was very disabling. And I was graced with, science smarts. And my mother said, well, you need to go to medical school. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you there, essentially. And I just went on this path, really just nose to the grindstone, and it happened. And I ended up, ultimately in a residency doing internal medicine. It wasn't until I started as a resident that I really, I learned what Dr. Choi just talked about. It wasn't the science that sustained me. It was the connections with my patients and hearing their stories. That's what got me through those long days of call. Back in those days, for many of our younger audience members, there was no such thing as caps on the number of admissions, or there was no duty hours. So it was pretty arduous, and my patients kept me going through. And still today, yes, I have some administrative roles and I'm an educator, but I am not letting go of my clinical duties, because that's really what just gives me joy. So that's my path in a really quick blurb.
Thank you so much for that.
I'm very much touched about all of your inspiring story. Is truly very much motivational, and truly, when I decided to become a physician, I should have to give credit to my parents, particularly my mom, because she believed wholeheartedly that medicine is the best profession in this world, because in this profession we can serve our patients. And I absolutely love being a clinician, being an educator, and truly I firmly believe that that is the best decision I have taken in my life. As Dr. Cha mentioned, I cannot remember anything from the Krebs cycle. Many things I have forgotten. However, I take it truly privilege to connect with my patient, to serve them. And whenever, I'm not able to cure many things we cannot cure, but I'm always there to care for them, to bring the best for myself and to take care of my patients. And the other part of the question is that, why it is important to talk about our success, our failure, our contributions, because as Dr. Hingle mentioned beautifully, that, the system truly is designed for men. However, there are many physicians like all of you who have already set the bar so high for the women in medicine. So this platform, I believe, when all of us are talking, sharing our experience and perspective, is truly, hopefully, will be motivational for the next generation of women in medicine. And I feel very much blessed to be here with all of you.
Thank you so much, doctor. I think it's amazing to hear different experiences, because we're all different people, and knowing that it is possible to do all this from you, it's truly a privilege. So I think for most women that want to go into medicine, something that is of concern to us is work-life balance and family planning. Do you face any challenges in family planning due to your career in medicine? And what advice will you give to an early career physician or a trainee who is thinking about taking the next step and starting a family?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I was really fortunate that I met my spouse and life partner fairly early in my adulthood. And so that had alleviated many of the challenges that could have been there, alleviated many of the potential landmines. We're focusing a lot on women in medicine, and one of the double binds that we as women in medicine face is, if we desire to have a family and conceive and give birth, there is some fixed biology to when that has to happen. that being said, there's so many ways to create a family and start a family. So we don't want to necessarily feel like we're boxed in with our options. But where there's a work-life family balance issue that sometimes comes to pass is if, as women in medicine, we don't make the best choice in our partner, that could hurt us in more ways than we realize. Finding a partner, whatever they do professionally, that will uplift us, create a sense of equality between the two of us, and be our biggest fan and support us no matter what. Because going into medicine is a very demanding, professionally challenging way to proceed in picking an occupation. It's hard enough to do it alone, but it's even harder if you have a partner that doesn't understand, isn't fully supportive. So in terms of the challenges, really the biggest challenge was figuring out when to actually start the family. But I was very lucky because I continued to have 110% support from my life partner. And so I wish that for every woman in medicine so that they can really thrive professionally, but you have to have things also thriving personally and on the home front. So I think that's the challenge, is figuring out the timing of things, but finding the right person who can be there for you and have your back with all of this.
I would also like to say something. I don't have kids. I did not have kids during residency. I could not see myself in surgery, sleeping 4 hours a day, taking care of a baby when I arrive home. My parents are surgeons, so I was basically raised by my nanny, which is like a mom to me. So I really wanted to be present, if I had kids. But as you said, you have to time it. My advice for the young generation is to like just do fertility, and not that you have to do fertility, but just freeze your eggs so you can have a backup. Like a lot of residents nowadays are doing that so they can feel safe and they cannot feel the pressure of just having babies with any partner. As Dr. Choi was saying, selecting the right partner is very important. And sometimes some people can feel pressured that the age is coming, so I have to get married with this person, even though if I don't think it's perfect. And I don't think you should settle. And I think just having your eggs frozen really helps you not have that pressure. I did not have the time to do it because COVID happened when I was about to do it, so I had to stop all of that. But I'm going to say that I was also lucky that I found my partner a long time ago. But one thing that I heard recently is a phrase that says that women are expected to work as they don't have any kids. But they're also expected to parent like they have no job. So I felt that phrase was so, it's incredible. It's so completely true, right? Like when you're a resident, you're expected to work like you have no family, but then you're also going to be absent at home. So I think timing is very important. So that will give you like a chance of, having more freedom during your training.
Thank you so much. Those are amazing advice. I'm taking notes here. I'm
Yeah.
keeping that in mind.
I know you were trying to keep this to 2, but I'm going to jump in because my husband and I did experience infertility, as do a lot of women in medicine. And I do agree with what already has been said. And I really want to add that you can't plan everything as much as we want to plan everything. I had a plan and the plan didn't work out the way that it was supposed to. And so I encourage people to accept that and to embrace that and to be open to things that deviate from what your vision is. Had my husband and I not done that, my husband and I, we tried fertility treatments. They were unsuccessful. And we adopted both of our boys. And had we not been open to something that looked very different than what we had dreamed of, we would not have the family that we have now, which I love.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Doctor. It's really inspiring, and it shows that it is possible to have both the career and the family as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hingle, for sharing that with us. Truly appreciate it. As Dr. Hingle mentioned before, we're like in this era where like the system was not made for women, but it's turning the other way around. Like women are more in leadership positions that in the past that they were not used to, right? Positions that were usually made for men in the medical field. But now I'm here in a set of panelists full of women that are in leadership positions and that we're grateful to have today. So given that leadership in medicine is often seen as an area where women face significant barriers, how have you navigated these challenges and risen to leadership positions in the area of medicine?
I'm happy to share. I believe, it's just the reality, an elephant in the room, that, okay, there are barriers. There is like sticky floor, there is glass ceiling. However, despite that, we have to move forward. So one of the strategy, I believe, that is very critically important, that is like, make sure that we are integrating both our confidence as well as competence, because both confidence and competence, they're integral part and one support each other. When we are confident, we are getting that courage to go out of that box and, take that extra leadership role, take that uncomfortable role where we have to say that, okay, I do not know, but I'm happy to learn. And as the time grow, how we are taking like, becoming more competent, then our confidence increase. So this confidence and competence cycle is extremely important. And secondly, I truly believe that being aware about like emotional intelligence, knowing when to talk and also knowing when to keep our mouth shut and only listen is very, very important for any leader, particularly for women in leadership, because there is a notion that, okay, as women we are emotional, but if sometimes we are not emotional, that could be seen as in a bad way too. So understanding that fine balance of, okay, when and how to express emotion, when to talk, when to listen, have that thick skin to take the bad feedback and then rule out that, okay, which is truly constructive and which could be hearsay. I think these are very important for women in medicine leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Hoque.
Yeah, I'll add on quickly yes to everything Dr. Hoque said, and particularly for women in medicine who aspire to leadership, the higher up in leadership ranks, one sees fewer and fewer women leaders. That's changing, but it still is far from being equitable in terms of gender representation. So a couple additional points I'd want to suggest is find other women or men, she for she or he for she allies, who can not just be mentors, but possibly sponsors. And additionally, really work on building one's own self-confidence, because particularly if you enter a sphere where there aren't many women in leadership, you may be the only one, and it can be very daunting, it can be very intimidating, but one has to start with a healthy sense of self-confidence. Some of the literature in the leadership realm suggests that women may be more likely to internalize when things are not successful, whereas men often will externalize and say, it's not me, it's you, or it's not me, it's all of them. Whereas we're more inclined to think, what did I do wrong? Why am I not enough? And start by saying, I'm definitely enough. And without promoting a narcissistic arrogance, I would ask all of us as women to really feel good about ourselves, think of any no as a potential opportunity for stretching and growing, and stop thinking I'm not enough, and start thinking this is just another path to a newer, fresher opportunity, and really build that self-confidence in oneself.
And I will only want to just make a small comment. There's data that shows that female in leadership usually pick up projects that doesn't conduce you to promotion. And it's very important. One thing that I'm doing now, because I'm a junior attending, I'm in a leadership position, but I'm also in the promotion ladder right now. And just analyzing what I need to get promoted, I have realized I have a lot of projects. And so you have to make sure that you choose projects that are going to get you to promotion, so we can have more women in leadership. Men tend to get things that take them to promotion, and women take to work in things for the department. and help the department in a lot of things that doesn't allow you to publish and allows you to get promoted. So it's very important to select your projects very well, things that you're passionate about, but are also that is going to help you in the run. So that's very important to get into mentorship, that they can allow you to figure it out what projects are going to be beneficial for you and you're also passionate about.
And I would just very quickly add that in addition to that, we need to change promotion pathways that actually truly value the work that women are generally more inclined to do, the more humanistic, the more compassionate. Currently doesn't often lead to promotion, but it should. It's just as important. So I agree with Veronica that we really need to be thoughtful about it, and we also need to work to change that.
I agree.
Thank you. And going like in the same line, have you guys ever felt that being a woman has limited you in ways like in your career path or specialty of choice? Like, how do you guys navigate those challenges if you ever like face those?
For me, I never felt that I was limited by my gender in my choice of career. I felt pretty comfortable, but you know, I figured internal medicine out when I was pretty much finishing third year. But what I found limiting was, you know, as was earlier mentioned, you know, with women were frequently asked to excel at work and excel at home. And I chose a path to go part-time early on in my career when my children were young. And that, you know, closed a lot of doors for me and should not have closed doors, right? And that is something that systematically, slowly, organizations are doing a better job at still leaving doors open for individuals who are working part-time, whether they be male or female. But looking at that, when you're looking at, you know, career placement, looking at what employers have in place, should you choose to go part-time? Are your employers allowing flex work where you might have share clinic responsibilities with another physician in your group? Those are things to all keep in mind, because it was very daunting having to, you know, choose, you know, missing, you know, kindergarten performances versus, you know, working another weekend. So it's, you'll have to find balance. But yeah, definitely my husband didn't go part-time. I was the one who went part-time.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of that just goes back to some of, you know, Dr. Choi talked about, you know, the partner that you're with and their ability to support you or not. He couldn't go part-time though. He actually had an independent practice, so that we talked about it together and I went part-time.
So I want to say that I don't feel like that my gender has limited me, but I'm going to say that during my career, I have had a lot of gender bias. And that's something that probably all of you has experienced. I remember I was washing my hands before coming to the OR when I was a second-year surgical resident, and the med student was washing his hands and asked me how long I have been a scrub nurse. So, I mean, just the fact that I'm a female surgeon, you know, like at that time, I received, my mom has lived this all her life because she's a plastic surgeon. And when she studied, she was the only female resident in 50 nationally. So this gender bias that we always going to have in any specialty. Obviously, surgery is more frequent, but because it's a male-dominated field, but that's something that we always have, right? And your bosses are going to be male. And one thing that I will always remember is when I was in a conference for women surgeons, and they designed these, they said, I want to work part-time, but there's no way that as a surgeon I can work part-time. But truly, if we don't ask for it, right? If we don't keep asking for these things, it's never going to happen. What they did was that they used two surgeons, female surgeons, to complete one job. And I think the more that we can do that, so we can create the environment that is conducive for happiness, for us to be able to be at home, but also not to sacrifice our academic endeavors. And the more that we normalize that, it's going to obviously create a better future for all of us. I think the problem is that it doesn't exist, so we think it's impossible. But it's not. I think we have to speak up, and we have to, when we're leaders and when we become leaders, we have to start developing these jobs opportunities for people like us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Dr. Elisa mentioned that balance between having your career and also having to go to family events, right? So I want to ask you, have you ever experienced feelings of guilt or shame for pursuing a demanding medical career while also balancing then your family responsibilities? And if so, how have you managed those emotions?
I would assume that everyone has, but that's just an assumption. I know I have. I grew up in a pretty traditional family. I married into a pretty traditional family. When my this is a sort of a funny story. When my younger son, who's now 19, was graduating from preschool, so he was like 4 years old at the time, I actually got the ACP, the national ACP, to change a committee meeting so that I could go to his graduation. And then the preschool, the week before his graduation, changed his graduation. So I missed his graduation. I made sure that his dad, his brother, 4 grandparents were all at his preschool graduation. And for years after that, he would, whenever I would miss something that he wanted me at, he'd say, you know, Mom, you also missed my preschool graduation. So he reminded me all the time. But now that they're older, I have had the really lovely experience of seeing the impact that as a successful working physician who loves her job and who has been successful in her job, the positive impact that has had on my kids. They now see that as normal, that's good. The same son, we were out walking when he was probably in middle school, and he said, so Mom, when did Wonder Woman become your alter ego? And I looked at him and said, what? And he said, well, Carter and I were Googling you, and we found that blog post that you wrote about Wonder Woman. He said, that's pretty cool, Mom. And they now think that it's really normal that women can have careers and be successful and provide meaningful contributions to society. And so I'm at the point in my life that the guilt is gone because I see the positive side of those trade-offs that we make.
Thank you for sharing that, Doctor. And I'm sure they are very proud of you. All right.
Yeah, I echo with Dr. Hingle. I think any female in medicine who have had to make some trade-off in their family life to come to work and serving the patients. So I believe, as previously we discussed, that life partner is very important. When I first got married in a very traditional family, like South Asian culture, where daughter-in-law will be everywhere. But gradually, when my husband understood that, okay, the responsibility and the demand of my profession, I was very much blessed that I got his support. That was definitely very important. But yes, sometimes, maybe he's telling that it's okay, but still there is some guilt that, okay, maybe I should be there, maybe I could be there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now, during this whole journey, do you have mentorship? And how did that mentorship support or impact your career? And also, what advice do you have for women that are seeking mentors in medicine? And also, what qualities do you think we should look for in a mentor?
For me, mentorship has changed my career. I think mentorship is what really drives you during medicine, in my opinion. I have had multiple type of mentors, and that's what I advise to my mentees. You should have you should know the strength of your mentor, and then find different mentors that can fulfill what you need. So I have had male mentors, I have had female mentors, junior attendees, senior attendees. So I think all of that has been very important for me to succeed. As we were talking the other time, that the difference between a sponsor and a mentor, like the sponsor is people that are going to get you, through, find you opportunities. But for me to be able to talk to somebody and make my ideas bigger, is what allowed me to succeed a little bit more in my projects. So I have really encouraged everyone to not only have one mentor, you should have many mentors in the different states of your life. And you can even have mentors that is going to help in work-life balance. You have mentors for research. You can have mentors for leadership. And I always, nowadays, that we have coaching. I have said that I have experienced coaching myself, and that has really been very helpful to me. So at a time, whenever you have the financial independence to pay for coaching, or finding coaching programs that are sometimes free in residency, I will take advantage of that.
Thank you, Dr. Sobi.
Yeah, I echo that. I believe, mentors are integral for the career advancement. And, when I'm talking about mentor, I must have to give shout out to Dr. Susan Hingle, because over the past couple of years, I reach out to her to get her career advice, feedback. And I'm very much grateful to Dr. Hingle because, she was there to meet with me. I have learned so many things from her. So yeah, very much blessed to learn from her wisdom. And yes, I cannot stress enough the value of wonderful mentors like Dr. Hingle.
Thank you so much. And shout out to Dr. Hingle. That's amazing.
Thank you. So I know ACP is really big on advocacy. I think it's something that's really important for us. We want changes. Changes need to happen to make things progress. What are some of the biggest challenges women in medicine still face, and how can we address them?
I think some of the challenges go back to, well, residency. We've still having issues with time away for family life, right? For our female residents to have that time for caring, maternity leave. We're better than we were with time away from maternity leave. And now with the RRC being more open and allowing programs to extend residency training so that if an individual does want to take 6 months off in the middle of residency, they should have the ability to do that, but knowing that they may end up finishing 6 months later or some degree of that. But it's a woman's choice then at that point, right, to take that time for their family's needs. So we're getting better. I will say though, it's still a challenge that our residents have to face. Even in my own program here, we're looking at, we've never extended an individual's training because then we also know that impacts their ability to take boards and, when they look for a job, et cetera. So that's one process. I think the other thing that limits women, both in academics and in community, is that we're not uniformly strong negotiators. And men typically, and there's a lot of literature from the business world in this, that when men negotiate for their contracts, they will ask for more. They will go back and continue to the barter system, where more often than not, women are given a contract and like, does this look okay? Yeah, and will not push or fight for their own benefits and salaries, et cetera. So that's something that we still need to work harder on. That's more individual than global advocacy. Global advocacy, I think many times women and men have the same issues, but maybe we'll come back to that in a second, and others may have other things to say about women and advocacy.
I think that example, Dr. Sotil, is a perfect example of sort of a systemic problem, because, not because, and the solution often to the systemic problems is to try to fix the women. So train us to be better negotiators. That doesn't get at the underlying problem.
Right.
And that's where advocacy can come in for really trying to get institutions, organizations to have, this is what a starting hospitalist makes. This is what a starting ID doctor makes. This is what a program director makes, rather than relying on negotiation. And that's where advocacy can come in. Because I think, again, so much of it is fix the woman rather than fix the system. And I'll just add regarding those salaries, that starting salary is the critical salary. There was recently a study that looked at the gender pay gap in medicine, and whatever that starting salary is, that predicts the rest of your career. Because the percentage increases actually level out a fair amount, but if you're starting out at, say, 200,000 and your male colleague starting out at 250,000 over a lifetime, even if that the percentage that you get raised each time is the same, you end up making $2 million less over a career. So that starting salary is critical.
I think that was a very powerful statement that you mentioned, Dr. Hingle. We're trying to fix women when we have to fix the problem that there is. So thank you for sharing, both of you, a little bit of like systemic changes that we want to see, things that should be better. So trying to switch a little bit the things, because I know we're almost about to be done. How do you guys celebrate your wins, big or small? And how would this like reflect all the journey that you guys have been to?
I believe that as women, we do not give ourselves that much credit what we deserve. I think this is irrespective of the culture, irrespective of the profession. So one of the reminder for all of us is like celebrate our wins, celebrate our achievements. It could be a small or low, because a small win can motivate us, build up that self-esteem to get that big win. So if I have any success, I am like always sharing with my father, because my mom passed away. So I think looking at his joy is one of the rewarding I get for any of the success. So that is the like biggest celebration. And then like celebrating with my family. However, I think talking with the loved one, sharing their like experience, seeing their smile is truly the biggest achievement.
I like to share my wins with my work team as well. So in addition to everything Dr. Hoque said, like there are, I've been fortunate now at this stage of my career to have been able to get mentors that are very supportive. And so calling them out, finding them, and sharing with them, and then seeing their joy at my growth is just very uplifting. And at the same time, it helps them because they were helping me. And so when they get to share in that success as well. So it's a win-win.
This is one area that I am not very good at. But I am going to share something that has helped to shift my mindset a little bit, because we're generally socialized to not celebrate ourselves, that it's viewed as bragging, and it's part of sort of the gendered expectations. But one of my colleagues shared with me a different way of viewing humility, because I had said, I'm just trying to be humble. And he said, Sue, do you know that being humble doesn't mean thinking less of yourself? It means thinking about yourself less. So you make things about others instead. And that makes it a lot easier, because if you get a recognition, somebody nominated you for that. And when you downplay it, you're downplaying the work that that person put in to recognizing and wanting to celebrate you. And so I just wanted to throw that in, that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less. And then when you think about all the people like Dr. Hoque and Dr. Sotil mentioned, that contributed to your successes, that's helped me quite a bit.
I love that quote. That's amazing. I wrote it down. I'm gonna repeat that to myself every day.
Last but not least, how can our audience continue this conversation and get involved in mentorship, sponsorship, or advocacy efforts?
I think it will be very, oh, sorry, love. I think it will be very important for you guys to find mentorship, like in females. Also, as I said, you can also have male mentors, but you have to look for those opportunities. There's a lot of associations that offer mentorship. In my field, in anesthesia, our National Society offer mentorship programs for med students, for junior attendings. And in our case, we opened the National Hispanic Medical Association Florida chapter. And if you guys are here in Florida and you want to find a mentorship, you can always join our association, and we will be happy to, pair you with someone, answer your questions, and guide you as we need it.
I was also going to plug getting involved with organizations. Florida chapter ACP, anyone?
Yeah.
But truly, getting involved at the grassroots level. I mean, we know many of you are just starting out. You're not going to have necessarily the time to get deeply into many of the things happening, but show up. Things like volunteering for when your various medical organizations goes to Tallahassee and does advocacy. Those are, ways that you can squeeze in a day or two and do something meaningful, and then also connect with the various organizations. Yeah, so it's not just ACP. Whatever specialty society you're thinking about getting involved with them. We should plug FMA too, because they cover all of the Florida societies.
And also there's a lot of, just keep your eyes open. Like there's always webinars in different societies about advocacy, how to do advocacy, like the steps that you need. So it's never too late to start. It's never too early to start learning that. I feel like I'm still in the process to learn how to advocate for myself and for my peers. I always try to keep my eye open when these webinars appear so I can keep learning a little bit more every time.
And think about advocacy broadly. It does not have to be at the state level or the national level. It can be within your own organization. If you have an organization that doesn't have any problems, please let me know where that is. Because there's problems everywhere. And if people don't advocate locally, change doesn't happen. And that often is less intimidating than getting involved at the state or the national level.
And one responsibility as a leader is especially advocate for your team and advocate for your people. So I think, as you were saying, Dr. Hingle, that's very important, right? To advocate locally. Just to make sure, for example, Dr. Sully was saying that, like you have your own people getting pregnant, your residents, and you're trying to advocate for their success, right? You're trying to mentorship that their gender is not going to affect their career. So to advocate locally with the ACGME, with the department, that those two things are very, very important.
Yeah,
Great
Dr.
points.
Great. Oh, sorry, no, great point
Go ahead,
about
please.
legal advocacy. It reminded me we had here at our own institution, some of our residents, and this wasn't just within medicine, but across the organization, got together, recognized that our cafeteria hours weren't conducive to, physicians who have to be at the hospital late hours or even overnight. And so they worked very hard with hospital leadership here, as well as the hospital that we're associated with, to change the entire operations for the cafeteria and food services. So, and that was something that they did locally. So yeah, very important point on that.
Yeah, all these are great point, and I would like to add, like, besides the organizational level, like different organization, ACP, Society of Hospital Medicine, American Medical Women Association, and besides that, like local chapters for other specialty. One of the program, I have the true privilege to serve as a chair, which is IMG event for American Medical Women Association, AMWA, and many of a strong part of our women in medicine workforce in the US is international medical graduates. And I believe, it's a great avenue to serve on both sides. Both, it could be like, you can serve as mentor for the incoming physician who are pursuing the residency. And truly, I believe, it's a rewarding when we are serving as the mentor for that generation of physician. It's a like very much rewarding experience and truly a learning experience as well. And it will be like very much eye-opening sometimes to learn that, okay, how many things have been changed over the years and how we can contribute for their development.
I'm going to put in just a quick public service announcement. For those of you who are ACP members, you can get free affiliate membership in the American Medical Women's Association, and all genders are welcome to join the American Medical Women's Association, and can't beat free. So put that plug in.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. So we're incredibly grateful for this conversation today. It was a heartfelt and truthful conversation from amazing and powerful women. Only you know the challenges you have faced. Only you know how many dinners, graduations were missed, or how many times you were considered weak or vulnerable because of being a woman, when truthfully, you were the strongest person in the room at that moment. Thank you for being mentors, for inspiring, and for this amazing talk. We learn from you, we grow with you, and we follow and make a great path, thanks to women like you that made our path a little bit easier now. So it's a very heartfelt thank you, doctors. And for everybody who attended this meeting today, please don't forget to join these amazing organizations. We have ACP, we have NHMA, we have ASHM, and the American Medical Women Association. They provide so many opportunities to grow as students, residents, physicians, so many webinars, meetings, networking, wonderful physicians to meet, opportunities to grow. And it's important to advocate, and these organizations allow you to do that. This webinar will be uploaded in the ACP YouTube channel, and as well as other webinars that you're going to see there that we have done throughout the year. And as a reminder, our ACP Florida chapter meeting, it's going to take place in Orlando, March 15. We'll have our poster competition as well as our doctor's dilemma. So just a reminder for all the attendees to not miss that opportunity to meet some of us over there. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for being here and for the amazing advice. It was truly a pleasure to hear from you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thank you so much
very
for having us.
And
Thank
if,
you, everybody. Have a beautiful night.
If I
Thank
can
you
do
so
anything
much.
for any of you, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. We'll do for sure.
Thank you so much, Sue.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.